Here's Senator Rand Paul saying this about our first black president. Here's the Kentucky Republican in a New York Times interview. Quote, "The first African-American president ought to be a little more conscious of the fact of what has happened with the abuses of domestic spying. Martin Luther King was spied upon. Civil rights leaders were spied upon. Muhammad Ali was spied upon. Anti-war protesters were spied upon." Is Rand Paul really bringing race into a conversation about the NSA? And he doubled down in a speech at UC Berkeley last night.
I find it ironic that the first African president has, without compunction, allowed this vast exercise of raw power by the NSA. Certainly, J. Edgar Hoover's illegal spying on Martin Luther King and others in the civil rights movement should give us all pause.
You find it ironic, Senator Paul? Let's clear up a few things. First, President Obama knows full well the history of U.S. spying on civil rights leaders. He mentioned Dr. King specifically when he announced reforms to the NSA earlier this year.
During the course of our review, I've often reminded myself I would not be where I am today were it not for the courage of dissidents like Dr. King, who were spied upon by their own government.
Secondly, who is Rand Paul to make this point? There seems to be a cynical use of race from some on the right. When the president talked about being sensitive to issues of race, like he said after the Trayvon Martin verdict, the right attacks him for it, but it's interchangeable. They attack him for not talking about issues of race, too. And when Rand Paul talks about being conscious of race when it comes to spying, what about Condoleezza Rice? She worked for President Bush in an administration known for warrantless surveillance of U.S. citizens. And lastly, where does Ron Paul get off talking about race and civil rights at all? This is the man who once said he would have modified the Civil Rights Act if he'd been a senator at the time.
Should Woolworth lunch counters should have been allowed to stay segregated? Sorry, just yes or no?
What I think would happen, what I'm saying is that I don't believe in any discrimination. There's 10 different titles, to the Civil Rights Act, and 9 out of 10 deal with public institutions, and I'm absolutely in favor. One deals with private institutions, and had I been around, I would have tried to modify that.
That's inexcusable, and so are his latest comments. Senator Paul, did you think we would notice you have no credibility on this one? This is nowhere close to a nice try.